Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to gather together today and talk with you about what we're calling our community donors. So we're looking at donors at 500 or less. The level of support that you might call a community donor might be a slightly different level for your organization, but it's really that broad-based group of donors. So my name is Sandra Davis. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the founder and president of Donorly. We work with small and mid-sized nonprofits at moments of growth and change to build their fundraising muscle using donor research, storytelling, and community building. So before I started the company, I was an in-house fundraiser for a number of performing arts nonprofits. And I honed my experience with fundraising and individual giving in particular at all levels. It definitely was a learning on the job kind of career. So in the end, though, it's all about relationship building, whether it's a grant application, whether it's a major donor, a board member, or a volunteer, or a first-time donor. And the challenges, I think, with donors at this level that we're talking about today is sometimes they can get overlooked. So we want to make sure that we have some strategies in place, some systems, and some best practices so that you can take care of donors at that level. So pleased to be joined today by a fellow consultant, Rachel Katz, who has a really deep expertise and knowledge in this area, and she's going to help us make sure that we're taking good care of these donors. So Rachel, I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Sandra. So I'm Rachel. My pronouns are she, her. I've been at Donorly for almost 2 years now, which is crazy. Time really flies. Prior to joining Donorly, I spent over a decade fundraising in the museum industry. Like Sandra, a lot of it was learning on the job. I began my career actually as a part-time archivist at the Bremen Jewish Heritage Museum in Atlanta. And I kind of fell into fundraising because it was a full-time job they had available to be a membership coordinator. And the museum director kind of looked at me and he goes, "You can make eye contact and you can actually carry a conversation with people. Are you really interested in continuing to remove staples from synagogue newsletters?" And so I really just took off. By the time I left, I had been promoted up to director of membership and visitor services. And following that, I worked at the High Museum of Art as the development manager there, responsible for their top level of membership, which raised about 1.7 million annually. So since joining Donorly, I've gotten to expand my horizons even further, taking a deeper dive into corporate support and grant writing for our client RIP medical debt, as well as working with 2 other clients where I specifically really dug deep and got to flex my community level donor skills, what we're talking about today. And I am really excited to share all of that with you guys today.
So Rachel, knowing your talents and skills, I'm glad you're not a staple remover anymore, and I'm glad you're part of our fundraising community.
Me too.
Okay, so just a reminder again, the call is being recorded. If you need captions, go to the meeting controls toolbar and click on show captions. You should find them there. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to select a series of questions from those submitted in advance. If you weren't able to submit your question, go ahead and type it in the chat and we'll see if we can get to it as well. We'll spend about 10 minutes on each question. We're going to invite you up to take your, go off mic, introduce yourself, give us your name, pronouns, title, and organization, and state your question. And our colleague, Izzy Weiner, who's right here with us, is going to kind of be our MC and organize us here today. And she'll be monitoring the chat. So, you know, throw ideas, questions, answers in there. We don't know everything. And we'd love to, you know, everybody learn from the whole team here today. And, you know, feel free to put any follow-up questions, comments, responses in the chat as well. So with that, Izzy, have I covered everything?
Yes, I think you are all ready to go. As Sandra said, if questions, concerns, follow-up comments, more questions arise, we welcome it all. Throw it in the chat, and I will do my best to track on all of that while we continue to have some lively discussion. And to get us started today, I'm really excited to start with something that is so aligned with what Rachel was just talking about in terms of her career trajectory, which is membership and benefits. And Lisa P, I see you here in the Zoom room. If you wouldn't mind coming off mute and or camera to the extent you feel comfortable, and sharing the question that you posed about your organization. And we also have Nicolette Thayer here, who had a fantastic membership related question. And I know there's obviously so much in the theme of membership to dive into and cover, but perhaps Nicolette, you would want to come off mute and tell us a little bit about your experience and some of your questions and curiosities about shifting some of the membership benefits that you all have in place.
Hey there. Okay, I'll try to be brave.
We got you,
You
Nicolette.
had a fantastic question just to hype you up a little bit, and we're really excited to dive in. So thank you for being brave and joining us today.
Sure, yeah. Okay, I'm going to read the question because I felt like I formulated it best when I typed it out. So I'm just going to read what I wrote. So currently we offer our $500 level donors 5 $3 concession coupons for a total of $15 for every 500 they give. But we want to remove this benefit because the cost to administer them is greater than the face value of the coupons, meaning that the time it takes to filter through this report that I get every week and enter it into our database and prepare the letter and handwrite some things on there, it's just very time consuming. Especially during our renewal periods. We don't have membership here, but we do have subscription renewals. And so a lot of donations come in with those subscription renewals, and it can be a very busy time. Currently, we're a staff of 2. So this is solely my responsibility. And when I am administering this particular donor benefit, it takes a lot of time, and there's not a whole lot of time for other things that would probably be more engaging for our donors, or perhaps a better use of time. So our question is really, and I don't know if this group can answer this directly, but what we're trying to figure out for ourselves is we don't want to take away this benefit without replacing it with something of equal value. And what would be some of the ideas to replace the concession coupon benefit with something of an equal value?
Great. Thank you,
I have
Nicolette.
a question for you. Are these coupons used frequently? Like, do donors actually use them?
You know, it's really, I don't know the percentage because it's hard to know, because people hang on to them forever. Until recently, they didn't have an expiration date on them. So it's hard to say how many are used. Well, we do know our accounting team would know how many are used every year. And I don't have that number, but I would say a lot of them are using them, and a lot of them are not using them. Like, they don't really see, they have a whole stack at home. They don't really see the benefit of it necessarily because maybe they're not buying concessions at our theater, or they don't mind paying. So some are using, some are not.
I'm wondering if there is a simpler way to administer it. But if not, if you've explored that and there's not, then I think is one of your concerns that people are going to be unhappy that you're taking a benefit away?
Yes, there is always, the backlash of taking away a benefit, because some people who maybe regularly use this would be sad to see them go. There are probably some that see it's just $15 that they're getting, and wouldn't really mind it. I think it's more that we want to honor the fact that they were receiving this benefit, and we'd like them to still feel valued, even if we're sort of taking it away. or replacing it with something else. And we weren't sure of a different way of administering them that would be more efficient and careful of our time.
Mhm.
What if, oh,
No, go ahead, Rachel.
I was gonna say, what if instead of 3 or 5 $3 coupons, if you just did like one $15 voucher to use it one time? I know that, so I did a big redesign of membership benefits when I was at the Bremen, because of this situation where we were mailing catalogs to every donor at certain levels and spending a lot of money and time sending out all of these catalogs, and people didn't even really want them. And so I actually switched to a voucher system where if people, I would just send the coupons out. And if people wanted a voucher, they would come and bring it into our store. But I think that, I mean, before I did my big redesign, something that I did was I did survey my donors, which I think is really important to see. And the reason why I asked you that question at the beginning was if people are using it, because if it is a benefit that a significant amount of your members are enjoying, taking that benefit away can create a lot of friction. And so, once you understand if it's something that they actually value, spending time to determine if you need to figure out how to facilitate and continue to do that, or if you can take it away and replace it with something else, like that's where you might find a better answer for that.
I love the idea of the survey just because you learn something from people, and you might ask a few more questions that might help you understand if there are other benefits you can replace it with. And I also think like what I'm often looking at when I'm offering benefits to patrons or members is how is it deepening the relationship with them? So I think that's a question to contemplate as well as you're thinking about, changing up your benefits.
Taking notes. Thank you.
And other types of membership benefits, Sandra and I, had a conversation when we looked at these questions yesterday. So it may not be relevant for your experience, Nicolette, but for other people on the call, Sandra and I had a great conversation about other potential membership benefits for both performing arts organizations or museums. I know there are a lot of my museum friends on the call today, and things that we discussed for like behind the scenes tours are always super popular. Having access to certain higher level staff, whether that's a director or talent, actors, or if it's a curator at a museum or an artist, having that, small intimate gathering where they can have FaceTime with those individuals does help foster a stronger relationship. And it makes them feel like they are really part of the community.
And then, what's always a challenge, I think, with donors at these levels is making sure that the, goods and services value, if it has a value like these vouchers do, is in line with the level of gift. So always a consideration there. I see that Lisa had popped on for a moment. I wonder if we could, Lisa, if you're still there, if we could get your question as well.
Lisa and I touched base, and I'll acknowledge there was a little confusion as to a different Lisa that's not on this call who was asking about membership. But this Lisa also had some fantastic thoughts and questions about giving circles that I'm going to table for later if we have some time to dive in. But I've also received some great follow-up questions in the chat from Pamela. And Pamela, I'd be really curious if you would be able to come off mic and speak briefly about some of the challenges that the revamp of your organization's membership structure is facing. Because I think a lot of this could be very relatable for others.
Oh, wow. I'm here. Do you guys see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
We can hear you.
It's my camera. Oh, wait a minute. How's that?
There we
Here you
go.
are.
Okay. Double camera locks.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I'll try to be really brief. I am new to this council, and it is not related to the organization I actually work for. This is something I'm trying to weave myself into, and involuntary. So the organization had been in existence for 20 plus years in a very, very small town, and it did really well for a lot of years. And the original founders eventually ended up removing themselves, retirement, other things, and new people were assigned. And unfortunately, the new people they just kind of took over and didn't really understand nonprofit rules, regs, bylaw, none of it. And they just put people in officer positions because they knew they had to have one. Not necessarily the right person for the right role. And as a result of that, they were embezzled twice by officers. And so then this town desperately needs art. We're very, very rural and need it for the community. We're also very, very desert. So there's no parks, there's not a lot. So we have a new board. We have a new president who is also credible and director of a local college. So I'm happy about that. And even he is struggling how to, although he's the director of the college and very versed in what he does, nonprofit again is not really. And so they're trying to build membership, but figuring out benefits. They're trying to build the members before they have the benefits. And that's kind of, you don't know how to charge, what the membership should be and the levels. So that's the biggest reason I attended this, was to kind of actually I intended just to sit back and listen and try to take it in and learn.
Okay, great.
But so there you have it. So we're working to overcome the negatives. I'm actually helping to rebuild the website for more art and robust, and we have the help of Nevada Arts Council.
That's great.
But still, there's the people actually doing the work, and many of them are struggling because they want it to work, but they don't exactly know how and what is supposed to happen.
So can we ask a couple of questions, Pamela?
Pardon me?
Could we just ask a couple of questions of you? This is a great topic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this a performing arts organization or?
That's the yes, it is.
Yeah.
They initially had visual artists,
Okay.
and then they brought in groups, which aren't really under the council. It's really interesting how that took place. So
Okay.
they kind of sponsored groups, like dance and choir, but they're not really part of the council.
Presenting organization, at least somewhat.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do, and we post events for them.
Okay.
But again, in membership, I suggested that those groups, right now they pay like $10 a month or something, and we post their events in social media and everything. And I figure that there should be membership levels for those that get advertisement through us, and all they're just paying the same as if I paid as a general member.
And do you have a mailing list or a newsletter that goes out regularly?
No, that is all of this is being redone.
Okay, so social media is the primary way you might communicate out with the community?
Yeah, and they're using email. I'm trying to work with them to get into an email marketing application, much more suited than a Gmail going out to a large group.
Okay,
so that we can then track and find out who's interacting with the emails and the events and all of that kind of thing.
Very important, yes.
Yeah.
Rachel, do you have any questions for Pamela, and then we can dig into this?
Well, are there So whenever I look at, building a membership package kind of from the ground up, the first thing I do is I try and find organizations that are similar to mine, and I look at what their membership structure is like to, really have a base for comparison to see like, these are the types of levels that they offer. These are some of the services that they provide. Do you know of other organizations that are like yours, maybe not within your area, but in other, smaller rural areas?
Yes, I have searched the internet. I have gone to organizations like the National Endowment for Arts, all these places where I can get URLs for other art councils, and researched and looked at their websites and how they're doing the website for my own to create this website. And membership programs, they're all different, but there's a lot of similarities. So I think it comes down to the community that they're in and the members they're trying to reach and where those community members are in dollar value. Like, I know that our community members couldn't afford a lot in a membership, but I know that our community businesses should be more engaged with the arts in general. And I wanted to give them a page, a highlight page every month and things like that. But the biggest question I had was, they're trying to decide how to divide up the groups of memberships, like an individual compared to a family. And if it's a family, how many people before they increase the thing? Should we keep it separate for one for seniors and one for veterans, or blend those two? It's that kind of thing I'm trying to figure out.
Sure.
Because there shouldn't be 10, 20 different membership groups to join.
Typically, if you have any sort of discount, like seniors, students, veterans, you can just kind of lump those categories together and just have it be a discount that you provide to anyone who meets any of those criteria. That tends to make things a little bit easier so that you don't have a level that's specifically for seniors or a level that's specifically for students or a level that's specifically for veterans. A general like rule of thumb for families is 2 adults and then any children under the age of 18. Once those kids hit 18, they can, membership, and you can start them on their own philanthropic journey. I also, so one of my best friends and college roommate was the president of her town arts council in Iredell, North Carolina. I'd be happy to put you in contact with her. She is also, I believe, the president of their theater, their nonprofit theater there. So yeah, I'd be happy to connect you. I'm sure that the two of you have a lot in common and can discuss.
That would be so awesome. I cannot thank you enough.
Of course.
Because this is all new to me. I'm actually I wanted to write grants, and I have not had that opportunity to do so. And I wanted to get in the nonprofit area. So I've done a lot of research, and I'm very happy to help them and volunteer and do all of this. And I know enough about ethics and compliance and the differences and who should be doing what and bylaws. But I can't just spit that out there without, I can't think of the word, but I have to be very,
I think that I think overarching advice is, especially if it's a volunteer-led organization, keep it as simple as possible so that you can administer it. Hopefully it will grow. And, over time, maybe there's a staff member in the future to support that growth. But if it's not, and everything is being administered on the board level or a volunteer level, just keep it as simple as possible. And that'll go far.
thank you. Very, very helpful.
Good luck. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, along the theme of small but really growth or oriented organizations, I'd love to turn it over to Janelle. You had a fantastic question about how to maximize engagement and ask potential with your community, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about that from you.
Yeah, I don't remember my question at all. I'm sure it has everything to do with the constant struggle of we are Encompass Collective. We started during the pandemic. We are a BIPOC global majority person of color affinity space for acting training. And for 2 summers, we've gone out to the Celebration Barn in Maine to do a summer programming for BIPOC up and coming actors. And so the last 2 years we've done a GoFundMe. So my question was probably like, most of our community are broke actors of people of color. So it's been like this thing of like, oh, we're posting all these things online. We're trying to reach out to our community, but, and I don't know how else to say this, but like our community is broke young actors. So like nobody can give us money. So we've kind of like, last year, a lot of our money was raised by just people who believe in us. Like it's a lot of other community organizers, a lot of other actors, a lot of other acting teachers, and they kind of have really supported us, you know, with their university salary money to like help keep us alive. But with things the way they're going and a sad recession and us coming out of the pandemic a little bit, we've just, this year we have struggled more. So my question was, we have a small but passionate community. How do we make, we just don't know how to spread the word beyond our community of actors.
Yeah.
Help us first. You know, don't ask me for money. I need cheap classes.
Yeah,
And that's what we're trying to provide. We're trying, all of our classes for them, you know, are on a sliding scale. We keep everything, you know, Celebration Barn is like bleeding money for us because they just believe in what we're trying to do. So that's kind of my question, like, how do you reach beyond?
It's a great question, Janelle, and it's a question that a lot of organizations have if they're serving a population that is in need, and you still need to build a donor community that doesn't naturally bubble up from that community, but needs to be, you know, surrounding that community to support it. So a couple of questions. When you do the event at the barn, are there people who come, like, are there friends and family or outsiders who come and experience as audience members, or is it really a private kind of class situation?
Yeah, you know, that is a conversation we've had with leadership at the barn because they have been kind of trying to push for that. But with the sensitivity of the kind of work that we're trying to do, you know, our priority is to create a safe space for actors of color to fully embody their work.
Yeah.
And that, you know, even with all this conversation happening, you know, with slave play going to the West End and people are like freaking out about blackout nights, we are trying to take ourselves out of the white gaze, out of the gaze of creating more profit in order to kind of get to this work. So again, another problem of what we've created is that like the work I being one of the founders and current leaders, I don't even want to record our Zooms in order our Zoom panels in order for us to be able to have real conversations that feel really freeing and empowering. So the answer is no, but we have talked about inviting audiences to something.
But that adds a challenge, and it invades a protected space in a way.
Yeah, so it's like this thing of like, we want to share our work, but the work is supposed to be for us. So then there's like a shroud of mystery around what we do in a way. Yeah, I don't know.
Rachel, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions and I have a couple suggestions. So have you asked, and I know that you said that, reaching out to your community, but have you asked your community to reach out to their like extended community? So like, I'm involved in lots of arts organizations, but I have friends that are lawyers and I have friends that are doctors, and I know that they have money. And so whenever I'm, fundraising for a particular cause, I usually try and hit them up first because I know that they need something for a tax deduction by the end of the year. But have you asked within your community to kind of fundraise on your behalf?
Yeah, we have, and that has been not as successful as I had hoped, because every year that we're around, we are getting more community members, but we've made asks, and maybe it's the way that I've been asking or the way that leadership has been asking, but we just haven't been getting any response. And there are only so many emails you can ask of a community of actors of color who are all trying to, I think it's also because we're all actors, right? Everybody's like got auditions and like workshops and are in tech. And so we're all volunteers. So there hasn't been a ton of response, and I don't know how else besides being like, please ask your rich friends. I mean, I think also it's so hard whenever we're people of color and we already have such a different culturally relationship to money.
Mhm.
And that has been a whole, we created this based on we it's not about the money. We should be teaching each other. So I don't know what it is about we are having a hard time.
So a little advice is the easier you can make it for people to ask their network for money, the more likely you'll find success. So if you have some sort of like, if you can put together like a resource kit. So first thing I would suggest, if you don't have one, is to create a case for support. One of my favorite cases for support is from Habitat for Humanity, like the national branch. It's on their website. It's really, really meaningful. And I've used it several times to create templates for other clients. But state your case and explain why you need money and why it's important for people to donate to you. Then make it look nice and have that as something that people can share with their contacts. So in addition to that, having like an email template so that all they have to do is put their friend's name at the top, attach the case for support to the email and send it off, and everything is written for them. So literally all they have to do is just send it out on your behalf, makes things way easier. And I know that back many moons ago, I used to do telethons. And I know that we have Kel on here who can talk about outbound fundraising. But if you have people doing calls, you make scripts for them so that, if this situation happens while you're on the phone with someone, you can say this, or if this situation happens, you can say this. But Kel, I don't know if,
yeah, Kel, would you come off, because Kel is also, in the theater art space. So she's a consultant, but she's had her experience fundraising on behalf of projects as well. So Kel, go for it. I know you have a lot to
Yes.
say.
Janelle and I know each other. Janelle and I have worked together. We've known each other for 15 years.
Oh, okay.
She's been talking to me about these challenges, and we haven't spoken recently, so this is applicable and happy to share with the rest of the group.
Sure.
But as she was explaining these challenges, I did really think like, I just was like, you need to connect with the rest of my colleagues at Donorly. We could definitely give you some support and some help. So, yes, Janelle, I mean, everything you're saying, like there are some, I wouldn't even say challenges, just some more nuances that I actually think are part of your messaging. And I think you can be really clear about like, this is why these spaces are closed. This is why these spaces are kept safe. Like like that's part of your, like, I don't mean this to sound crass, but like part of your branding, it's part of your mission. And so I say, like, don't hide that, like share that and explain why this is so important. I think that's really important. I also think, like, because you're talking about actors also want visibility. So it doesn't have to be about if there's an ownership of the narrative and there's an ownership of how people are being perceived and what the conversation is, I really see like the potential for like a robust social media campaign, and the idea of like, we all know there are people who have graduated from these programs who have a lot of resources. So I think it's like, we need to, yes, you've got the scarcity mentality, like exponentially given the people that you're serving, but like, this is all why we're trying to like break this down. So, and like cut up all the things you and I talk about all the time, why we're trying to like break down the walls of white supremacy and this idea of scarcity mentality and individuals and all of this stuff. So I think it's about finding a different way to call in the community. It's not about like, show us your work, show us the showcase, but like, what's the fun party? You and we, and I know you've done that in the past, but it's going to take some buy-in from the community in order for this to work. Like, go for it, Sandra, sorry.
Yeah, there's lots of tactics, fundraising tactics that organizations, that are not in the theater space use, because they really do need to protect the anonymity of the people they're serving. So, and, there's dangers in that, because you can kind of, create this savior, complex situation with fundraising. You have to be careful with that. But I really like leaning in on the idea that Cal mentioned of explaining why the structure of your organization is the way it is and why that's important. And if you do have actors who would be willing to kind of give their testimonial basically about their experience, even though it's not showing the experience, it's explaining why this experience is so vital for your community, and do that on social, and begin to kind of build the understanding among a wider community about this need for your group of actors, and why the wider community should consider supporting it and help you continue to do this work. And if there's outcomes from this work that people are comfortable to share as well, this is what it's meant to me in my career. This is what it's meant to us as a community to hone our craft, to kind of build our support of each other, whatever those things are, share those general outcomes without while still being protective of the work itself, might be a way to inspire people.
Yeah, just to respond to some of the things, we do have a bunch of testimonials. We do put them on our Instagram. I think everybody that comes to Encompass probably could give a testimonial, because the work does work. Just by us gathering, it works. I don't think it has anything to do with the teaching.
Yeah.
We did do a template email. I don't really know what a case for support is, so I'll definitely, maybe that's like a more clear, like, hello, instead of words on a blank page. But yeah, these are everything that's kind of been said is like, but I think also in collective leadership, there's a little bit of, I've said like testimonials will be enough, and people are like, no, people have to see the work. We have to invite people. So there's also still like, in an organization like ours, it's nothing, I haven't seen anything like it before, and we're trying to have collective leadership, which makes things also hard, especially when none of us are being paid. So it's just, I'm hearing everything. I'm not sure how to put them into motion, like an aggressive social media campaign. I'm personally not on a lot of social media, but we do have people part of the leadership who are. So like, how does one do that? I mean, besides like, we have tried to reach out to alums, and it hasn't worked out as, we're just,
I think there is a frustration at the beginning of a process like this, where it can take a little bit longer than you will take a lot longer than you want it to, and can take a little bit longer than you really expect it to. So I would say just keep leaning into that, even though you're not seeing immediate results, because the people have short attention spans, and you need to kind of hit them up with information quite a lot before they might pay attention to it, which is frustrating, but it's true. And I do think that just looking at those other organizations where all the medical organizations, homeless organizations, where the people who are served are protected, but the message itself about what the service is front and center. That's kind of the framework you might want to go for. And if you feel and others feel like you really just need to protect that space, showing your work isn't the only way to invite people in. There's other ways to do that. And you just have to stand by the vision for your organization.
I think you also want to think about, Janelle, just the way that you're working with collective leadership is just really leaning into like something done is better than perfect right now. So the fact that there's some friction about, do we show the work? Do we not? Let's not show the work right now. And you're welcome to share. Like, I think the points that Sandra's making are really strong about like why it doesn't have to be that, and saying like it doesn't have to follow what other arts organizations, performing arts organizations are doing. But I think being really clear, I think to Rachel's point about having something that's some kind of one-sheeter and Canva, hopefully, fingers crossed, there is somebody, one person who is like, yes, I know how to do graphic design. If there's not, like, I can take 15 minutes and show you a little bit and you can run with it from there. I'm not great, but I've learned a little bit, right? So like, just to be like, what is the different superpowers of each of these people? And so like, just the idea of being like, you don't need an amazing social media plan, but you need something to be going out on social. So like, you just need to get started and just trust that like, if you're in this catch-22 of, we're feeling burned out, we don't have the space to do this, we also, why do we need to do this, like why do we need to put ourselves out there, like I get it, that's hard, but also you need to call in community in some way, like so that they know. So we can talk more about it offline, but you have to remember that it's all towards community building. It's like people want to help, but they don't know to help you unless you reach out and ask. And we can break down in a different moment like what happened with those asks. I have a feeling that I probably have some thoughts and tips that you could circle back to those people and have more success.
Thanks, Cal. And thanks, Janelle, for bringing this forward. Keep going. You're doing important work.
Thanks.
All right, Izzy, who's next?
Well, I was wondering, given that we're coming up on the wrap-up time, I was wondering if Lisa would want to come off mic and speak a little bit to, if Lisa's still, yes, there she is. Just speak a little bit to your question or processes around giving circles, because I think that's a really interesting component of the broader conversation that's happening here.
Sure, thank you. I was off camera because my connection's a little spotty, so forgive me if I come in and out here. I've been in, so I work for a theater communications group. I am the individual giving manager, and in connection with some of our board members who are at producing institutions or performing arts institutions, they've been able to implement giving circles as a way to engage, I think, like, I would say the millennial generation of donors. And TCG being a legacy organization, we have some variance in generation, but I think what we're seeing is a trend that is happening over a lot of arts organizations, but as a service organization in particular, we have a smaller pool of donors that are giving at larger levels, and that happens to be, different, a demographic that's a little bit older. And so in an attempt to try to bring in my generation, for example, I'm curious about the implementation, for giving circles, what that looks like in terms of like what benefits they might receive, and then how sustainable it might be as a service organization, because frankly, since COVID, in an effort to make more of our resources more accessible, we lost some of our donor benefits. And so, we're trying to balance out what it looks like to offer some kind of benefit, but still make our organization accessible to a wider range of people. So there's like some conflicting, I think, processes and ideologies happening.
So being also a millennial, something that I have seen some success in with younger generations is actually doing some sort of like subscription, like monthly giving, as a way to encourage people to end up giving a larger amount. Like if someone asked me to give $500 to their organization right now, I would say like, I'm sorry, I really can't do that. But if someone said, could you do like $42 a month? I'd be like, well, yeah, I could probably do $42 a month. That's the same thing. And so breaking it down into those like, bite-sized chunks of philanthropy tends to, speak to people who've been subscribing to Netflix for, almost 20 years now. So, that $9.99 a month or whatever it is now, $20.99 a month, God. But that, because $42 a month, that's, like a mediocre, nice dinner that you can not have. And instead you can support a really great organization. Also being able to have some sort of like justification amount. So if you are making an ask and you know that you're going to be asking for $120, what does $120, like, what is that able to provide? Even if it's just on average, like, having shows be more accessible or something involving education and children, whatever it is, it's something that puts it into terms.
Yeah, thank you. I think what's hard about that as because we do so many things, it's hard to really like drill down the metrics, I think.
It doesn't have to be like every 120. You can say it like, you can say it does this or this or this. Like it can just be, these are the types of things that you can get. Because that's the same, like $1 a day, provides food and care for puppies. It's just, it doesn't tell you which puppy, it just tells you that it happens. So if you have a wide variety of things that you can offer, and you can even do A/B testing to see which works better, which one is more persuasive.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Hope that helps, Lisa.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So we have a few minutes left. I'd love to just ask for any takeaways that anybody had today from this conversation. If anybody has anything to share.
Well, I will say that I appreciate very much the information on memberships, and just all in all, in general, hearing other people's questions and struggles. That helps all of us trying to work through the things that we want to do. So I appreciate that. I hope you do more of these types of things for open questions. I've attended a lot of webinars, and you sit and you listen and they give the presentation, and I know it's necessary, but things like this are really awesome. Engagement from both sides. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We really enjoy doing these. I love to be in community with folks and hear what the issues are, and have that conversation back and forth. It's helpful for us, and it's just a lot more fun than giving a presentation, I think. So we will be doing more, definitely.
Thank
Any
you.
any other takeaways from anybody?
I will follow Encompass Collective and do what I can to share with my network any of your funding stuff happening.
Okay, there you go, Janelle. You've got a
Hey,
new
thank you.
Yes, I have to agree. I feel for you.
All right.
It's all over her face. I was watching her talk and it was like, I felt it. So I would like to help too, just because.
Okay, the magic of community building. Yes, let's do this.
And I do have a Canva account and I'm happy to make a flyer for anybody. I do it all the time.
Thank you, Pamela. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Rachel, any other takeaways from you or any other last pieces of wisdom that we haven't shared?
Well, Pamela will tell you we will be doing more hot seat coaching, so just make sure to check your email because we'll be doing it regularly with other consultants as well, different topics.
And I will. So I'm going to change my email address because I've been been using my work one. I'm a Vista, an AmeriCorps Vista. And so is it okay to sign on to these with like my personal email?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Because these come to my, I'm doing this for other people, not my Vista work. That's affordable housing. So,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. We'll get you on the mailing list and make sure we're getting together, we're making sure we're sharing all this out. So we have, we're going to put a couple of resources in the chat. Please follow us on social at @_Donorly. We're going to share my LinkedIn and Rachel's LinkedIn in the chat as well. So please follow us there. We may be reaching out to you to connect as well on LinkedIn. We spent some time there. Yes, come back to our next. We're going to try to do these once a month and keep these conversations going. And thank you, Pam, for sharing your Gmail in the chat here. Anybody else want to share their LinkedIn or social handles or whatever? Share those in the chat if you'd like. This is such fun. I really just enjoy having these conversations, and I hope that we've been helpful. The good news about membership programs and giving programs at these levels is that all the organizations that are your peer or adjacent organizations have this information on their websites. You know, go and search out and see what people are doing. And don't forget, you know, people in the nonprofit community, I'm probably telling everybody something they already know, but people just love to share information, love to help each other. Reach out to your colleagues at organizations who are doing this and look like they're a little farther along and see if you can get some advice and help from them. So thank you all again. Glad you could join us. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.